Imagine this. You just finished a grueling 12-hour night shift. Your back's screaming, your hands are bleeding from climbing a roof at 4 a.m. during a storm to patch a leak. You get home so exhausted you can barely stand. You just want to close your eyes for an hour. But instead, you wake up and find your clothes stuffed into a trash bag, your wallet completely empty, and a single note slapped on the fridge. You're useless. Get out. That's how my wife Elaine ended our 7-year marriage. No tears, no goodbye. Just a cold stare. And her son Craig standing beside her, tossing me the keys to my own truck like I was the help. "Go cry somewhere else," he said, "and don't ever come back. My name's Randy, I'm 34. I used to believe love could get you through anything. But in one day, I went from being the man who held the family together to a nobody, sleeping in the back of my truck for 3 straight nights in a 24-hour supermarket parking lot. But this story? It doesn't end in tragedy. It starts there. Because what Elaine didn't know was that I'm not the kind of man who breaks easy. I work night shifts. I build with my hands. I know how to wait, how to endure, and when it's time, how to fight back. After being tossed out like trash, I started over from nothing. My best friend Wyatt let me crash at his place. I found a small apartment. And that's when I discovered the full extent of the betrayal. Elaine had staged the roof leak that night, using the garden hose. She had a secret bank account and had been siphoning money from our shared funds for months. And the worst part? She forged my signature to take out a $25,000 loan, putting my house up as collateral. Yeah, the house my grandfather left me. A house only in my name. Elaine lived there for 5 years, spent my money, slept under my roof, then kicked me out like I was freeloading. So I got a lawyer. His name was Frank. Sharp, serious, and smarter than anyone I've ever met. Together we built a case: fraud, forged documents, bank records, screenshots, and legal proof that the house was mine. And then came the Monday morning that changed everything. 8:59 a.m. Frank and I parked down the street from the house. The cops approached the front door. I followed at a distance, and through the window, I saw Craig, shirtless, half asleep in his boxers. Elaine scrambling to throw on a robe. The officers handed over the paperwork. I watched her face shift. Confusion to panic, to rage, and finally, despair. Craig started screaming at me, calling me a loser, saying his mom only stayed with me out of pity. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "You've got 48 hours to get out of my house, or I'm tossing your precious gaming setup, the one I paid for, straight into the dumpster." Before we left, the officers made it clear. No damage. No moving anything that wasn't theirs. The new TV? Mine. The kitchen appliances? Mine. All of it. We got in the car and drove off, leaving them standing there, wrecked by the collapse of their fake little world. 2 days later, right on schedule, I came back with the police. Craig was gone. Elaine stood there on the porch, eyes swollen, trying to beg. But I was done. Her fantasy of control had crumbled. The house? Wrecked. Walls stained, floors scratched, kitchen sink cracked. But I didn't care, because I'd taken back what was mine. I sat down on the bare floor and called Wyatt. He showed up with pizza and beer. We ate on the floor, laughing between bites, making plans to rebuild the house and rebuild my life. The place was still a mess. My bank account wasn't full again. The lawsuit was far from over. But I was free, stronger than I had ever been. A few days later, there was an unexpected knock at the door. It was Alexandra, Elaine's sister, eyes red, tears streaming down her face, asking for help. She told me Elaine and Craig were now being mistreated by her own husband, Stetson. They'd been thrown out, belittled, controlled. Elaine, who once treated me like garbage, was now being treated like garbage. I didn't say, "I told you so." Instead, I helped Alexandra get out. I called the right people, helped her store her things, got her to a safe place. The next morning, I got one last message from Elaine. "Randy, we have nothing left. Please, talk to me." I replied with just one line. "All contact goes through my attorney. Address is in the paperwork." 3 days after Alexandra moved out, I got a call from an unknown number. I hesitated, but something told me to pick up. "Randy?" The voice was low, gravelly. "Who is this?" I asked. "This is Craig's father, Elaine's ex-husband." I froze, standing in my kitchen gripping the phone. I'd only heard about him in vague stories, always painted as the villain. The reason Craig turned out the way he did. "What do you want?" I said, my voice cold. He sighed. "I heard from Alexandra. I just wanted to apologize, not for Elaine, she made her choices, but for my son." I stayed quiet. He continued. "He's holed up in some cheap motel on the edge of town. Elaine lost her wallet, the car got towed, and all their so-called friends disappeared. Look, I know he's been a disrespectful little punk, but he's still my kid." Still, I said nothing, because the anger I once carried was long gone. All that remained was quiet, clarity, exhaustion. "Thanks for calling," I said calmly, "but they're not my responsibility anymore. You should be talking to your son, not me." And I hung up. No rage, no satisfaction, just peace. The next day, Wyatt showed up with a bucket of paint, 2 brushes, and that same easy grin of his. "Time to kill that god-awful purple," he said. We repainted the front door in silence. A deep shade of blue, strong, steady, exactly how I was starting to feel for the first time in years. As we wiped the streaks of paint off our hands, Wyatt chuckled. "Looks like a real house now." I nodded, and for the first time in months, I actually believed it. A few days later, I got an email. Simple subject line. "Until next time, Alexandra." She invited me to dinner. No pressure, no complicated feelings. Just a thank you. From someone who'd also been hurt, and like me, was figuring out how to stand back up. We met at a small place in town, barbecue smoke in the air, warm yellow light strung across the ceiling. We didn't talk much about Elaine or Stetson. We talked about dreams, about the days ahead, about quiet evenings with nothing more than a cup of tea and a good chair on the front porch. I don't know what'll happen to Elaine or Craig. Maybe they'll figure things out, maybe they won't. But that's no longer my story. As for me, I'm living again. Not as the guy who was tossed aside, cheated on, or broken. I'm the man rebuilding his house, with stronger foundations, good people around him, and a heart that's no longer afraid of losing. And this time, I choose who walks through that door. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about a man who was betrayed, discarded, and then chose to rise, reclaim what was his, and never bow his head again. If you've ever been brought to your knees by the people you trusted most, if you've had to learn how to stand back up from the very place where you were pushed down, then this story is for you. Leave a comment, a like, or share this video. Because somewhere out there, someone might be searching for just one reason not to give up. And if you want to hear more stories about strength, resilience, and the journey of taking your life back, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're writing the next chapters together. Thank you for listening to my story.